Aloha, my name is Brady Barrows, and I wrote the book Rosacea 101, which includes the rosacea diet. Today I want to discuss with you Rosacea Triggers, because that's one of the 5 treatments that rosaceans concentrate on. It's called flushing and trigger avoidance. That's usually we think of in terms of triggers is what produces a rosacea flare-up. So that's what a trigger is. A trigger is anything that will produce a rosacea flare-up. Now, what's a rosacea flare-up? Well, that's a more intense outbreak of redness, pimples, burning, and it really, really bothers us tremendously when something triggers our rosacea. So let's discuss that. There are a number of trigger lists that have been proposed by, for example, the NRS, the National Rosacea Society. They have an official trigger list. There's another company called Joy DeLee. It's on the web, and I list that in my book. They list a very extensive, long list of trigger lists. And then there are other rosacea authors in their books have also presented various triggers. But no one has ever made a list of rosacea triggers that in every case will produce a rosacea flare-up. There is no single rosacea trigger that will produce a rosacea flare-up in every rosacea. Any potential trigger is just simply that. It may produce a rosacea flare-up, and it's just something for you to consider, because in some cases it's been reported that a rosacean will say, oh, this triggered my rosacea. My book, I list a very comprehensive trigger list in 5 categories. The 5 categories are food and drink. That's the number 1 category that triggers rosacea. Number 2 is oral drugs. Number 3 is topicals. Number 4 is the environment or some kind of exposure in the environment. And then number 5 is physiological triggers. I'll give you an example of each of these. With food and drink, just about every rosacea list, they list hot spices, tomatoes, or coffee. They're always on every rosacea list. But just to prove my point, not every rosacean who drinks a cup of coffee is going to get a rosacea flare-up. It's just a potential trigger for some rosaceans. And that's the same with hot spices. Some rosaceans can eat hot spices, no flare-up. Other rosaceans report, oh, if I have hot spices, I get a rosacea flare-up. It's only a potential rosacea flare-up. In the oral drugs category, I list a long list. For example, one of the ones that's probably the most common is niacin. If you take vitamin B, particularly vitamin B3, niacin, then sometimes that can produce a rosacea flare-up, but not in every case. There are many others. There's a long list. In the topicals, some people might put like witch hazel on their face and get a rosacea flare-up, or some other topical like salicylic acid produces rosacea flare-ups in some people. In the environment, just about all the lists list the sun, and it's true, but then we get reports of rosaceans who go on a vacation, they've been out in the sun, and they don't get a rosacea flare-up. So it's not always the case. And then finally, physiological. A good one is menopause. Menopause tends to produce rosacea flare-ups, but not in every rosacea. The other thing is if you get anxiety, stress, it can produce a rosacea flare-up, but not in every case. So you need to read my book where I go into more details about this. Chapter 10 discusses flushing, and then chapter 11 discusses triggers. And so I encourage you to buy my book. It goes into more details on this. I have 373 pages of information on rosacea. And you can buy my book on Amazon or at Barnes & Noble. And you can go to my website. It's www.rosacea-101.com. Aloha.